Hey everyone, I'm Zenith Priest, and welcome to my introduction of Lightning Swift Strike, where I will give you insight into the cadence of this spirit and show you how to drive off the invaders by turn 5. Glancing at the summary of powers, we can tell right away that this is an aggressive spirit, and the playstyle reveals that they specialize in burst offense, creating big plays followed by a slow turn or two. For each element we have, Swiftness of Lightning lets us use one of our slow powers as if they were fast. Since most of our unique powers are slow and contain an air element, we will actively use this ability throughout the game. Our growth options are fairly straightforward, and I will go into them more during the game that follows. Looking at our presence tracks, we notice that it will be more difficult to increase our energy than it is to open up more card plays. Thundering Destruction will need a lot of fire to pull off and is limited to a short range from a sacred site, but provides a powerful solution to deal with buildings. For our unique powers, Lightning Spoon is quite useful if playing with other spirits, as it allows them to use up to 2 slow powers as if they were fast. For solo games, its primary use will be for the elements to get our innate power online. For such a little effect, Harbingers of the Lightning contains a small vortex of nuance. Until you get a feel for the different little ways this can be executed, look for an effective counterattack, and don't be afraid to play it slow, waiting for builds before making a decision. Shatter Homesteads is vital for this spirit, destroying a town at a range of 2 from a sacred site and generating the same fear as a destroyed city. Raging Storm is potentially really powerful if you can work with other spirits in crafting an ideal scenario, but don't get hung up on trying to maximize value. Its most common use will be an inelegant and very expensive way to kill a single explorer. Note that both Thundering Destruction and Shatter Homesteads require a sacred site to operate. As both are central to Lightning's offensive strategy, be sure to place presence accordingly. And with that, let's get started with a demo game. As a low complexity spirit, I'll be using the Power Progression deck to simplify our decisions and highlight the thematic elements of play. I'll also be disabling the Branch and Claw expansion for the same reasons. Alright, let's begin. Turn 1. The invaders have invaded the wetlands. Given Lightning Swift Strike offensive intent, look to destroy the top explorer in the wetlands and the initial sand town. This guarantees only one explorer next turn. Combining our starting energy with 3 from the last growth option won't be enough to cast both Shatter Homesteads and Raging Storm. That's where Thundering Destruction comes in. We still need energy from the last growth option, and to reveal our third card play, placing the presence where it grants the most reach. The air from Lightning Spoon lets us play all our powers fast if we need, and the fire is needed for the Thundering Destruction to come. Lastly, if playing with a companion, be sure to give them the benefit of this boon. Our Harbingers are going to move the Jungle Dahan down into the wetlands to set up a counterattack. We won't always be able to set up this play, in which case prioritize the fear in order to gain a fear card next turn with its potential advantage. If both explorers started inland, we'd still likely see 2 explorers next turn. When that happens, play Shatter Homesteads as a slow power. The placement of these explorers, however, makes Raging Storm the better option, even if it is expensive. Now let's see our plan in action. Destroy this explorer before they build, and shatter this town to prevent exploration in the higher lands. Now we let the invaders build in the lower wetlands. And because we played the cards the way we did, they can only explore into the lower mountain. This one does get a little tricky though, because with the 1 card left, we will only be able to deal with either the remaining wetlands or these mountains. Remember I said earlier we want a fear card for next turn? It is meant for this explorer, but now if we miss, we lose our presence and will cascade when it blights. Because of these high stakes, I'd normally switch tactics. Use Shatter Homesteads on the mountains after they build, and let the wetlands blight instead. We'd also use the Harbingers to push the Dahan from the higher wetlands down into the jungles, instead of sending the other one into certain doom. One benefit of using Harbinger slow is to prevent us from committing too early. Anyway, for the purpose of this demo, we're going to keep the current plan and send this Dahan south to show that even if our gambit fails, we can still drive these invaders off our island. Turn 2. We only have one wetland town and a mountain explorer to worry about, with a plan to eradicate both of them with a single play. Since we have the upper lands under control, it's time we established a sacred site closer to the action. The lower sands allows us reach across the whole island, so let's grow there and open up more passive energy, giving us exactly the energy we need to play Shattered Homesteads. In our alternate start from turn 1, instead of Shattered Homesteads, we'll be left with Raging Storm. Take out the highest explorer, and we'll end up looking close to where we are now. Destroying this town triggers a fear card. Avoid the Dahan. Sadly, this won't stop the mountains from building. We finish the turn by watching the Dahan do their part, and the invaders unfortunately do theirs, building a town in the mountains and continuing their expansion, this time into the jungles. We were hoping for a fear card such as Isolation or Dahan Attack that would remove the lone explorer. A worthwhile shot, and still generally recommended if there was less at stake. If playing with a companion, make sure getting this first fear card is still possible, and remember to consider which land will blight if the fear effect isn't effective. Turn 3. Since we have exhausted our powers, we reclaim them and gain Delusions of Danger. With it, we can either push an explorer or generate 2 fear. This is perfect for pushing the lone explorer away before they can build. Dealing with the jungle city, however, will take nothing less than Thundering Destruction, but since we had to reclaim, we neither have enough card plays nor enough energy. So let's bide our time for now, play just the Delusions, so we can use our innate power next turn. If you're playing with a power progression, dealing with a lone explorer is the ideal pick. Because we're playing this power by itself, any other bonuses, like having the right elements, will be a welcome addition but is not required. On the invader's turn, they blight the mountain, destroying our presence, the Dahan, and causing the land to blight and cascade. Because we are starting stage 2 exploration, we don't know what land will be explored next, so we can choose to cascade anywhere safe. The invaders finish their turn by building in the lower jungle and exploring into the sands. Turn 4. Jungles will be ravaging, and both sands have explored, but we're anticipating a big turn and should be able to handle this. Using the last growth option opens up our 4th card play and grants enough energy to use them. If playing with others, use the opportunity to acquire range where there is need. Here, however, we have optimal range to the whole island, so it doesn't really matter where we place our presence. We now play all our cards and see our next big turn. Lightning Spoon is the same as before, use it on your fellow spirit if able. Next, use the Harbingers to send the Dahan and clear out the jungle. Shatter the jungle town. Use Raging Storm to destroy the explorer in the higher sands, and finally, Thundering Destruction to destroy the jungle city. With this, we've triggered another fear card. This time, it is the Isolation we were hoping for earlier. A little late, but now neither of the sands will build. During the invader's turn, we clear out the jungle, there is no building, and then they explore into coastal lands. Turn 5. We are within reach of obtaining Terror level 2 with only a single town remaining. Our powers exhausted once again, we reclaim and can now call to Bloodshed, which lets us do damage in, or gather reinforcements into a land with Dahan. With everything we have available to us, our choices become more adaptable to what our island looks like. We could destroy another city if we need to, or take a quiet turn or two until the next big threat shows up. With victory in sight, 2 cards will do. Delusions of Danger to generate fear, and Shatter Homesteads to remove the last town. Some final thoughts if you're learning Lightning Swift Strike. Remember the cadence. Playing this spirit well means utilizing the little energy we get to maximize our plays without overextending. Otherwise, we end up with cards in hand and no energy to play them. Sometimes that means using the last card in hand instead of reclaiming. Other times, play only a card or two, even if you have a full hand, to set up a much bigger play next turn. As a rule of thumb for energy gain, tie the last growth option with big strikes, and use the sacred sites to increase passive energy and expand reach during smaller plays. Well, that's all I've got this time. Hope you gained some insight, and good luck in your next games.